Hello everyone, I'm Dalton Burdett.
I'm Ryan Warner.
And we are the Movie Nights. Well, some of them. If you're watching this, it's because you want to hear our uncensored and unfiltered thoughts and opinions about the world of movies. So kick back, grab a snack, and thank you for being a part of the conversation. We'd like to take this moment off the top of the show to thank our partners, the Great Movie Radio Show and the Podcast City Network. You can find their links in the description below. Not only did I nail that opening, I'm also getting better at talking slower.
Yeah.
I've been told that when I talk, it's a mile a minute, and sometimes it's hard to understand me.
Which basically means these 30-minute episodes are now going to be an hour.
Pretty much.
But that is fine, as long as people understand us.
You have to make fun of me.
No, I think talking slower is only a beneficial thing.
I'm going to try. At some point, I'll catch myself and be like, damn it. No. Yeah. And then I have to start all over again. But Ryan, nice to see you again. How are you, sir?
It's good. It's going good. I've been watching a few movies, especially for Franchise
really?
Spotlight. Yeah, it's
no
great.
fucking idea.
But no, I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I've been pretty much doing the same. Kind of busy trying to, schedule our next short film shoot, which is going to be fun. But I'm just chilling like a villain,
Yeah, absolutely.
But so why don't we go ahead right off the top and start with the movie news, shall we?
Let's do it.
Dude, I don't know if you guys can see, but it's been forever since I've had the laptop on the show. But you know what? I felt like, for nostalgia purposes, why not bring this bad boy back, And as I do every time when I start the show, I should have pulled up the stories ahead of time, so I'm just going to continue speaking in a manner in which I can just easily figure out.
Well, I have the first story pulled up right here that comes from the Hollywood Reporter, talking about how Disney is scheduling Mulan, Avatar, and Star Wars. They're all pushing it back a year.
Go ahead and talk about that, my guy.
Yeah, so obviously Mulan was supposed to already come out, but unfortunately due to COVID-19 being a global pandemic, everything was shut down, including movie sets and movie releases were all pushed back. It's really unfortunate that Mulan is, getting pushed back and all these movies are, because I want to see them. I've had the itch to watch new movies, and I heard rumors, whether they're true or not, that Mulan may just go straight to Disney Plus. I hope that's not the case. I hope that they give it a proper theatrical release.
I think they will. For sure.
You think it'll get a proper theatrical release, especially with all the money they dumped into it?
Especially how much money America and China dumped in this movie?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, no. It ain't going straight to streaming. But I'm scrolling through other stories, and we can kind of combine them.
Yeah.
And basically just tons of movies gotten pushed as a result of COVID getting worse and Tenet continually pushing its release date. Movies such as Spider-Man 3, Avatar 2, Quiet Place 2 all the way to next year, and Top Gun Maverick all the way to next year as well. Mm-hmm. So tons of movies are biting the dust on this, and it's looking like movie theaters aren't going to be open for a while.
Yeah, which is super unfortunate.
Sad.
It's interesting too, because we were talking about it before the show started, about Oscars and if they may or may not happen. And you said, what did you say exactly?
I basically said I wouldn't be surprised if they cancel the Oscars and then just make the 2020 and 2021 movies eligible for the 2022 Oscars.
Mm-hmm. Which would be a stacked year. I don't understand.
And then we couldn't make an Oscar reaction video last time.
We'll think of something, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah, we'll have something up our sleeves. Absolutely.
Yeah. But it is super unfortunate watching all these movies get delayed and released. But, at least one positive to this is hopefully they take their effing time with these movies and make them as good as they could be.
Yeah, so, some of them are in the can and completely done.
Which that's fine. But, as far as, pushing back Star Wars, because I know Taika has started pre-production on writing for his Star Wars film.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that they take this time and really flesh out everything to give us as good movies as we can.
And speaking of just, Taika, a lot of the Marvel films have been pushed back as well. Mm-hmm. And I know that Colin Trevorrow, when speaking about Jurassic World 3 recently restarting production, he called the delays like a blessing in disguise, because he's like, you can never have more than enough time to work on something before you start shooting. I was like, so I can see anything that hasn't been completely done or started shooting, or people are really happy that they get to, take the time to work on them more, especially in, such weird times at the moment.
Yeah. And it'll be a long time before we see anything go back to normal, which is unfortunate, but the only way things can go back to normal is if we do our part. But going on to the next story that I wanted to bring up is Tom Cruise
That
going
man
to
is
space.
fucking nuts. Is what we're
He
getting at.
is. What studio is? Oh, Universal. Of course, it's Universal. They want to shoot a movie in space.
Yes,
which doesn't seem that far out, but
No?
the fact that they'd have to send people to space, they'd have to send equipment to space.
Specifically, they're going to put Tom Cruise in a little rocket
and which, like, honestly, what other actor would be willing to go to space to shoot a film? Because, like, Tom Cruise prides himself on being authentic with his stunts, with his action scenes. Yeah. So it only makes sense. Like, what else could Tom Cruise do? He's done Halo jumps. He's hung
off the buildings. He's held onto a plane as it's taken off. Naturally, the next step
is space.
And Doug Liman's going to be directing the film as well. He's a very, very great filmmaker. Makes movies like Edge of Tomorrow, The Bourne Identity, things of that nature. I know that when Colin Trevorrow was making Star Wars Episode 9, he wanted to do this first, but just have like one shot or two in space. Mm-hmm. But it looks like not a whole ton of this movie is going to be shot in space. Like I said, it might, like the Episode 9 situation, it might just be a couple shots.
Yeah.
But, however, it's really looking like they're really committing to making it happen. And I think in the article I'm reading from Variety, it says they're getting cooperation from NASA and SpaceX to make it happen. So,
which is nuts. A movie that is going to be shot in space.
Yeah. And I don't know how much of it's going to be shot in space, but anything more than 0 is impressive. So,
yeah, again, like I said, you're going to have to shoot equipment up there. You're going to have to shoot directors. You're going to have to shoot actors. You're going to have to shoot sound people. Like, who knows how many people they're going to have to shoot up there to even get a single shot, you know? Like, it's going to take a lot of collaboration from a lot of different parties.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it's going to be rather interesting. Go ahead and moving on to our next story. More stuff about the Snyder Cut, because, you know, that's all we like to talk about.
We can never get enough of that, honestly.
Zack Snyder recently just let some new details about his version of Justice League coming to HBO Max next year happen at a thing called JusticeCon. It was like a thing that a couple fans were holding, and they actually interviewed Zack Snyder for the movie. He said a lot of interesting things and showed off some stuff that I want to get into.
Yeah.
First of all, showed us a clip with the black suit Superman, which was super cool. Really excited to see that when it's fully done. Excuse me. Also, in hilarious fashion, he's very careful with his words. Like, he'll never ever say anything bad about Joss Whedon, but he will say, like, oh, things I didn't shoot, or anything that was made after I left, you know? And
kind of getting around the bush.
Yeah, and one of the fans asked him, are any of Joss Whedon's shots going to be in the movie that you made? And his response was, I would burn the film reels before I put something in the film that I didn't photograph. And then went on to say, that is hard fucking fact. So,
hey man, he is passionate about his work and he's passionate about this film. A lot happened during this shoot, so naturally he is going to be passionate.
Yes, and he talked a little bit just about the restoration, how they're going back and redoing the aspect ratio that he originally wanted, doing a ton of that. He said right now it's at 214 minutes, but it could be longer,
which is absolutely insane to think about.
He did say that at DC Fandom, the event in the end of August, he said that on that day you will find out if the Snyder Cut is going to be a series or if it's going to be a movie.
Oh, wow.
He said that question will be answered then. So
that's a lot of footage to make a series.
It's looking like it could end up being a miniseries. And from a budget standpoint, spending $70 million on a movie is kind of expensive, one that's already technically come out. But since spending $70 on a 5-episode series, that's relatively normal for any big budget show. So who knows? We could see how that really plays out. Maybe there's an option for both. Wouldn't that be neat?
Yeah, no, it's nuts to think about, because like whenever you look at his Watchmen like Ultimate Cut, which there's the theatrical one, the director, and then Ultimate, which sounds like he's kind of taking the Ultimate route on this one. That cut of Watchmen I think is like 3 or 4 hours.
Yeah.
Like it's insanely long.
And something else that I find kind of interesting about it is I would hate this as a consumer, but now that I'm thinking about it from a marketing standpoint, if they did a weekly by weekly episodes of the Snyder Cut, like you get part 1, 45 minutes or however long they want it to be, and then on social media everyone talks about it, and then the next week they drop another episode, so it's going to stay in like the pop cultural consciousness for like weeks if you do it as a split up series, and especially if you don't drop it all at once, because that's what we found with The Mandalorian. when The Mandalorian went on Disney Plus, a lot of us thought, oh, it's going to be like Netflix and they're going to drop them all at once. But they didn't. They did it weekly. And because of that, Mandalorian stayed in the consciousness of pop culture for months.
But I think Justice League is a little bit different because it came out in 2017. All that behind the scenes stuff happened in 2016, 2017. Mm-hmm. And it's been part of the conversation for 4 years now.
Yes.
So it's like...
That's true.
It's a different battle.
Yeah, and trust me, as a consumer, I would much rather, whether it's a series or movie, I'd much rather watch it all at once.
Absolutely.
And getting specific, I'd like to see it as just a long-ass movie.
Yeah.
But we're getting it, so I'm not going to complain about it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, from a marketing perspective, I could see the reasoning behind dropping it week to week.
Yeah, which I totally get, because you're just going to get free marketing by word of mouth through people. But then again, like I said, it's been part of the conversation for 3-4 years now. Once it gets released, it's only going to be part of the conversation for even longer, because for all we know, people may think that this is even worse than the theatrical one that we got, or people may think it's absolutely fantastic. So I feel like it's going to be part of the conversation for a little bit longer, maybe not a year, but within a year I think it's going to stay in conversation if they release it just as a movie.
Yeah I think so too. And either way, I'm glad it's finally happening.
Absolutely.
And it's looking like it's going to be something excited to look forward to. Let's go ahead and move on to the last story we have planned for this segment of the show. More news on Tenet.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, Warner Brothers has announced their rollout plan for Tenet. And basically, it's going to open overseas in the end of August in the Europe and mostly European and maybe Chinese markets, with the ones that are open. Mm-hmm. And it's going to drop in whatever theaters are open Labor Day weekend in the U.S. And so we haven't gotten full confirmation as to how many theaters will be open at that time. But a couple of theaters, both Regal and Cinemark, have said that they're going to be playing it in whatever locations they have open. Mm-hmm. So I'm curious to see at what point we'll get to see it. I believe Canada's going to get it early if you want to take a road trip.
Yeah.
If they even let us in, who knows?
Yeah.
But yeah, no. Obviously, it's been said numerous times that we've both been looking forward to Tenet. However, I really, really hope that it plays at the theater, that the one Cinemark that's open in Orlando. Mm-hmm. Wasn't mine, but I hope that it's open at some point.
Yeah.
And, even if it's not, we'll find out a way to watch the movie when it's safe for everybody. But just what are your thoughts on the rollout plan for Warner Brothers on Tenet? And do you think other big blockbusters like Wonder Woman 84 or Mulan could follow in this process?
I think depending on how much money they make. Because obviously when you look at the box office return, you have domestic, which is just United States, and then international, which is literally every country outside of the US, which I think depending on their return, other movies may follow suit, which is very strange because usually movies always open here first and then a week later they'll open up in the world.
Or if they open up in the world, it's 2 days before.
It's a very close release date, but this sounds like it's going to be a much larger window between us getting it and the world getting it, which, other countries around the world have their recovery process in place, so it makes sense to give them the movie.
They've been doing better.
Yes.
And, they deserve to see it early, so, good for them.
Yeah.
But also, I could see other blockbusters doing this as well, especially since Wonder Woman 84 is another Warner Brothers movie. Because Tenet is not going to make a bunch of money in its opening weekend, but I think in its overall total, for as long as they keep it in theaters, you might see it rack up some money at the end for the studio.
Well, especially with, I'm sure other countries are still social distancing with theaters and restaurants and outdoors areas. So I feel like it's going to have legs that we haven't seen before, but it's not going to make Avatar or Endgame money with those legs. It's just going to make money because, if you have a auditorium that has 100 seats, but you can only sell 50 or even 25 of those seats, you have people who will want to rewatch the movie and then people who still haven't seen it weeks after its release, So it'll definitely have the legs to keep going and make its money. But like you said, it's not going to have that explosive first opening weekend.
Oh, yeah. And I'm going to throw in just a last-minute story, but it kind of ties into this one.
Okay.
The New Mutants had their...
What movie is that?
The New Mutants had their Comic-Con at Home panel.
Okay.
Which was a lot of fun. And they joked at how many release dates the film had. But at the end of the panel, and as of this recording, August 28th is their release date for a theatrical release. And Josh Boone's been interviewed saying that there's contracts in place where it has to be a theatrical release. That's why it hasn't gone straight to streaming, one of the reasons. And also, with Tenet moving to the Labor Day weekend, or early September for American audiences, with New Mutants opening at the end of August, and with AMC saying that they plan on opening all their locations by mid-August, New Mutants could be the first new movie that people go to see in 2020.
And it's going to make a lot of money because people are going to be antsy.
Well, maybe, but I'm just saying, isn't it funny that it kept getting pushed, but maybe it's because it was destiny that it was supposed to be the movie that brought people back to the theater, Ryan.
Oh my God.
And could you imagine if this thing opened and actually opened to bonkers money? Because
I think
that would be insane. I'd love it, but
I think whatever movie opens in theaters here domestically in the U.S. is going to make stupid money because
people are going to be,
almost like us. We're desperate to go see a movie in theaters. I don't want to say other people are desperate to do that because I don't want to speak for other people, but I feel like that's what's going to happen is people are just going to be so antsy about going out and seeing a movie, and they're going to make stupid money because of it.
And I think that some people are just going to go out and then they're going to see like, oh my God, the movie theater's open. They'll go in. You have anything new? And
like you said, maybe it's destined for New Mutants because they've dumped so much money into that. It's probably lost a lot of money, more than what it's worth. But if you release it on the opening weekend that theaters open up, you might see some of that back because people are just going to be so antsy.
Yeah. And luckily with Disney, when they bought Fox, they kind of just inherited the money that was already spent. And apparently they never did the reshoots on it. So they didn't spend. Disney hasn't really, just some marketing, but they haven't really.
But they collected the debts for it as well.
They did. That's very true. But at the same time, I think that there's people that are sitting at Disney where the moment that movie has its opening weekend, they're all going to get drunk in their office of just like, finally, we got it out in theaters.
Yeah.
And we should just one day just do a whole video about like the New Mutants and all that stuff.
When was that movie supposed to come out?
April of 2018. The first trailer came out in 2017.
My Lord.
Yeah, it's nuts. And I may or may not have a poster for the original release date. But that was a horrible wink. It looked like I was having a heart attack. But yeah, so moving on to the next section of our show. This is called Classic Movie Reviews. What's a classic to us? A classic is a movie that is at least 25 years old, is in high critical standing, and has a high, number of followers around it. And this time we picked The Goonies for our classic movie to review. Ryan, let's get right into this, shall we? Overall thoughts on The Goonies, directed by Richard Donner, produced by Steven Spielberg.
Ah, boy. Yeah, no, it's definitely fun. Overall, I loved the movie, but there were moments while watching it where I was like, okay, like this may be a little too much. And you even had moments like that, I believe. And it's fun, it's enjoyable. It's definitely geared more towards like the kids' adventure, kind of like how E.T. is geared towards like more childish audience. But still, I was able to enjoy it for what it was. I had a lot of fun watching it, but again, there were moments where I was like, I'm not so sure about that one. What about you? What are your kind of general thoughts about it?
I don't dislike the movie, but I also don't love it as a lot of other people do. I do think if I saw it as a kid, because I just recently watched it for the first time, I think if I saw it as a kid, I would have liked it a lot more. Yeah. But I don't think it's a bad film at all. Richard Donner is a fantastic director, and there are times in this movie, especially in its second and third act, where you genuinely feel like this is an adventure film and you're having fun with these characters. There are also moments of, especially in Sean Astin's performance, there's moments of like serious character drama amongst the children, although a lot of it's used for laughs. I think the only like really things the movie suffers from is some of it's good cheesy, some of it's bad cheesy, some of it's just stuff that didn't age well from being from the 80s, which happens with some movies. And some of it is, I didn't really feel like I knew the kids before the adventure started. Like they kind of just opened up and went on the adventure. You knew a little bit about Sean Astin and his family dynamic, with his home being foreclosed on and them wanting to find money. And I thought that, how they discovered the treasure map and all that was very just quickly put in there and didn't naturally really flow with the story. And I know when you make a kid's film, to the kids it's not as important, but, for the adults that are bringing them or for when you're grown up, you'll find movies like you mentioned E.T. where you find that the script is actually really tight, even though it's geared towards children. And that's possible, and it could have still been done better. Although the film does have a lot of fun moments. It has moments of pure joy. You know, the "Hey, you guys" at the end, like it's great. Richard Donner references Superman, which
blatantly obvious.
And it's great. And Chris Columbus, who wrote the script, references Gremlins, who he also wrote Gremlins. You know, just fun stuff all around. Like I said, I've said it like 4 times now, but I do like Richard Donner a lot as a director. He's made heartfelt films like The Goonies and Superman. He's also made films that scared the hell out of me, like The Omen. He's just really talented, and he does show off a lot of his skills in this movie. But at the same time, there are also some moments where just a lot of stuff is happening. Like, I almost didn't like the sound mixing, and that might sound like a minute complaint, but sometimes when everyone's talking, usually when everyone's talking, you can still hear like what they're saying and like the point of the argument, but sometimes it was just voices, and I couldn't really...
Because I noticed that too, but what I took away from that was, like, if you're a child going on this adventure looking for lost treasure and a lost pirate based off of a rumor, everyone is going to be talking over each other because they don't know what's happening, and we can't hear them, just like they don't know what's happening. So that's kind of how I took it.
Yeah, I could see that, but it was mildly annoying to me.
Yeah, and that's totally understandable. I mean, that's what makes film subjective. You know, I didn't see it as a negative personally. I just saw it as like, these are kids. If I was in that situation, their age, I would probably talk over each other and wouldn't know what I'm saying and wouldn't know what he's saying either. Just because we'd be so lost and confused and like, you know, wanting to see this treasure. Yeah,
I see that. And, you know, the set design is great for this movie.
Especially with the pirate ship.
Especially the pirate ship. The makeup effects are pretty good. I mean, some of it's a lot, but it doesn't necessarily look bad. You know, there's some dark implications that are just funny when you think about them, but the movie kind of doesn't want you to think about them.
Yeah.
Kind of like that family that just has Sloth as prisoner. It's just like, okay.
Yeah, it's like super dark.
Yeah, but a lot of, you know, fun, memorable performances from the kids. But either way, I do think it was a really fun movie. But I don't necessarily, and I can see why it's a classic, but I don't necessarily have that. It doesn't necessarily have that place in my heart that a lot of these other classics have. So what's going to be your overall grade for The Goonies, or rating?
I'd give it 3.5 stars out of 5. Okay. I had a lot of fun with it, but like one thing that just bothered the hell out of me is whenever they go into this house. And they go into the basement, they're banging on the foundation pipes, and it like goes to a prison, it goes to a country club water fountain, and the showers as well. But whenever they set up the shot for where they're at, it's like on a cliff in the middle of nowhere that they rode bikes to on the side of a mountain, and somehow banging on these foundation pipes, like just stuff like that. I just couldn't buy into, but as a kid, you know, watching that, you don't really care. You think it's funny.
Yeah.
But just like stuff like that happened throughout the movie, which really brought it down for me. But overall, a lot of fun, very adventurous. But 3.5 stars out of 5. What about you?
Yeah. Now that you bring that up, something that bothered me before I give my final grade was that there's this. I didn't like the opening all that much, like especially just a lot of the setup of the movie. I thought was kind of weak.
Okay.
But the especially when Sean Astin like has this mechanism for opening his gate, and it's really complicated and weird when someone could just easily go and open the gate. And I was like, all right, that's weird. But then in my head, I was like, oh, maybe they're setting up something for Sean Astin where he's going to be like this, you know, architectural genius and help them get out of a situation later, and that's how they wanted to set it up. And I was like, okay. But then you watch the movie and it never gets paid off. It's just this weird mechanism he had for opening his door. And I was like, that was dumb.
And it would make sense if he was, I can't remember the kid's name or the character's name, but Short Round is in this movie. And if he had those like gadgets and stuff that Short Round had,
that would have made more sense.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but it didn't. But overall, I'm going to give The Goonies a B.
Okay,
kind of bad. Thought it was okay. But yes, thanks for the recommendation on The Goonies, and we'll have more classic movie reviews for you on the next show.
So, Ryan, do you have any hot takes for us today?
Yeah, so the hot take I have is the movie that either wins the most awards or wins the most prestigious awards isn't always the best film. Not necessarily that it ages well, but that there are other movies that may have been more deserving. So I wanted to take a look, speaking strictly just on Best Picture winners in the past few years. Obviously, this past year, Parasite won. I think that one was the best film of the Best Picture nominees.
Okay.
Taking a look at 2018, Green Book won. Now, I know a lot of people, I haven't watched it all the way through, but a lot of people thought that Black Klansman was the best movie of that year.
Even Roma, I've heard.
Yeah, which, I mean, I watched Roma, which I would argue Roma is probably just as good, if not better, than Green Book. But my personal favorite would be The Favorite. I thought that movie was definitely better than a lot of these other movies on here, but it's not always the best movie that wins. And then taking a look at 2017, The Shape of Water, which you have Get Out, which was absolutely groundbreaking when it came out. You also have Dunkirk, which is fantastic and honestly only gets better with rewatches.
3 Billboards too.
Yeah, 3 Billboards as well. But I hadn't seen that movie. But taking a look at 2016, I'll just go to 2015 just to get the point across. But 2016, you have Moonlight that won. I haven't seen that one, but famously, you have the Moonlight versus La La Land. I do know people who have seen both Moonlight and La La Land, and they still believe that La La Land should have won. But you also have Arrival that came out that year, Hell or High Water, which is absolutely fantastic. Hidden Figures, Lion, and Manchester by the Sea. But of those, I would say La La Land is definitely the one that deserves the most prestigious award, just because I think that was the best film that was presented. And then 2015, you have Spotlight, The Big Short, well, a bunch of other movies, but Spotlight is the one that won Best Picture. And just from these ones, I would definitely say The Revenant is by far the best that came out in 2015 of the nominations. So don't go looking at movies like, oh, this won Best Picture, it has to be good. Well, just because it won Best Picture doesn't necessarily mean it is the best movie of that year. It just means that it happened to win that award, whether it's true or not that it is the best picture or not. So, I mean, you know, as film is subjective, so are the Oscars. You know, people voting on them, they think this movie is the best, so they're going to give the award to that movie. So that was kind of my take. I didn't know if you had any thoughts on that. If movies winning awards talks about its prestige as a film.
No, I agree with you. You know, I don't generally have a problem with movies winning Best Picture if I don't think they're the best, as long as it's a great movie. But I do agree that, and one thing that is apparent in these type of things is just over time. Sometimes, you know, you watch a film one year and then you watch it again 10 years later and you're like, wow, that film was a lot better than I remember it being. And you can go way in the past at Oscars and be like, oh, wow, that film went over that film. That's interesting. I mean, I like both, but I think that film's much better. And sometimes it's all about public opinion. And, you know, as we point out in each Oscar year that happens, it becomes cool to hate a movie right away. That's a big Oscar contender. But yeah, no, in terms of what you said, I completely agree. And that just because a movie won Best Picture doesn't mean you have to see it as the best of those movies. It kind of relates back to the subjectivity of film we've talked about a couple times before in the show. But yeah, no, I agree with that sentiment a lot.
Yeah, and most famously is Crash winning over Brokeback Mountain. It was right,
and Shakespeare in Love winning over Saving Private Ryan. Yeah,
so it's like, just because a movie wins Best Picture doesn't mean it, like you said, either ages well or it was the best of that year. And, you know, Brokeback Mountain was the movie that was cool to hate that year, which is ultimately why it got snubbed.
Yeah, it was it was the gay cowboy movie.
Which is a shame, because, I mean, I haven't seen it personally, but I've only heard good things about it.
I've only heard great things. Yeah.
But what about you? What's your hot take that you wanted to bring to the table?
My hot take, I have a broad one, but then I'll use a specific example.
Okay.
My hot take is, while film is subjective, there are a lot of filmmaking techniques that people decide to love or hate, and I don't think the technique should be hated. I think it's how the technique is used. Very broad. Let me get specific.
Okay.
My example is shaky cam.
Okay.
You ask any person normally or especially when he's into movies, how do you feel about shaky cam? God, I hate shaky cam. I think it's the worst. I can't stand when, you know, there's shaky cam in a movie. Where I think the right answer is, I hate shaky cam when it's not used properly. And unfortunately, with that specific example, it's like that all the time. It's used improperly quite frequently. Off the top of my head, I can think of 2 examples of shaky cam being used in sort of a proper sense. Those being the Bourne trilogy, the original Bourne trilogy, use shaky cam in a very effective way. And by the way, shaky cam is different from handheld, but we'll get into that another time. But the fight scenes in the Bourne trilogy do utilize shaky cam. But they utilize shaky cam to set the atmosphere. You can still tell that the choreography and the cinematography behind the action scenes are well planned and well thought out. And you can still see through the editing what is actually going on into the scene. What shaky cam became in action movies after Bourne is it became this thing that you use to hide poor stunt choreography or poor cinematography. You would edit it really quickly and shake the camera so that people couldn't really tell what was happening, and then they would just know that somebody won or somebody lost. Especially in like Taken 3 has a really bad examples of shaky cam in that movie. But I think that the overall concept of shaky cam is still somewhat of a good idea. Another example I can think of is the movie First Man, which I really love, the movie Damien Chazelle directed with Ryan Gosling about Neil Armstrong and the landing on the moon. Damien Chazelle made the conscious choice to rarely show like actual space. He only shows it when they actually land on the moon. Every other time he shows it, it's through a window. He wanted to focus on the claustrophobia of being in that spaceship and taking off. And he utilizes shaky cam to emphasize, the hell that he's in when the ship takes off and the camera shakes and he's about to pass out and has to click the right button. It was almost putting you in the shoes of Neil Armstrong in that moment and what that idea looked like. But it was shaky cam, used to the perfect way it should have been used, for the atmosphere, not to hide something. So I want to, broaden people's horizons on, before you hate on a certain technique, make sure you've seen that technique properly utilized. Because my opinion kind of changed on this. A technique that I used to hate in movies is the technique where they strap a camera to somebody and it's on their face. So while they're running, it's just kind of going like this.
Kind of like the King Arthur director, Guy Ritchie. The Guy Ritchie thing?
He does it from the side,
okay,
which I like. But there was one that's on the front, and I used to hate that technique. I was like, why would anyone use that technique? But then I saw a movie called Requiem for a Dream. And they used that in that movie. And in that movie, that technique was so effective that it actually scared me. There's a scene where Marlon Wayans is tripping out or running away from, I think it's cops, and they use that camera angle the whole time he's running. And you can kind of just get in his head of like how he's feeling and, just the unsettling nature of what's going on. And it was perfectly summed up by that camera technique. And I was like, wow, I see why that was the right thing to use in that moment. And that's what sort of changed my idea of just specifically hating on a technique just because you've seen it used wrong a certain number of times. So that's my hot take, is just because a certain technique has been used wrong in many ways doesn't mean that the technique itself sucks. It's just about how the technique is used.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
I will say I'm a firm believer and I hate shaky cam, but the only time I've ever seen shaky cam used properly was in First Man, and I absolutely loved the way it was used. So I will have to say, after hearing your argument, I do change my stance on it, that I think hating the use of the technique, because you can use it great or you can use it poorly. And you should hate the way it's used, not hate the idea behind it.
Yeah.
But I haven't seen the Bourne trilogy, because every time I've seen shaky cam is for off. Exactly, because I can't tell what's happening. I'd rather watch the choreography and watch the action. But like you said, they use shaky cam to hide poor choreography or just to quickly get action scenes done. That they don't have to spend a lot of time on that. But I will say you have swayed me on my opinion on that. So thank you for bringing that hot take to the table.
No problem. Wow, I got to call my mom later.
You did the thing.
I did the thing. So now we're going to move on to our next section of the show called Franchise Spotlight. What is that? Well, every week Ryan and I like to break down a movie franchise, movie by movie, and give our overall thoughts and opinions and grades about each entry individually. Now, normally we can do an entire franchise, but if it's over 5 movies, we decide to kind of split them up. And this time, we've tackled the Harry Potter franchise. We probably won't do Fantastic Beasts, we're still deciding on that, but we're going to go the first 3, the next 3, and then the last 2. So, here is our breakdown of the first 3 Harry Potter films. Ryan, I'll let you take this away first.
Yeah, so the first one, Philosopher's Stone.
Sorcerer's
Stone.
Then it's Philosopher in the UK and then Sorcerer in America. Because they mean different things. And yeah.
Words.
It's a whole
English.
bag of worms. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so Sorcerer's Stone. I watched it for the first time all the way through in the past few days. I will say it's not really my thing, but I can take some massive positive takeaways from this. Some
Do tell.
Absolute pure magic that happens.
Pun intended.
Yeah, it truly was. For example, when Harry gets the wand that works for him, because they try out multiple wands, and then he gets the one that connects with him, and like he has that magical glow behind him. The score comes in.
John Williams.
Okay, John Williams, the score throughout the whole movie is definitely the biggest positive. And then seeing Hogwarts for the first time, because you have an aerial view of boats, and then it pans up and you see all the boats and all the lanterns as you go up to Hogwarts. And just that is so magical. Just even, being 23 years old and watching this movie that is geared more towards kids and that demographic. But it's magical. A lot of the things didn't age well, like the CG, the green screen. During the Quidditch, they used a lot of animations for the people instead of superimposing them or just using them on a green screen, which didn't age well. Quidditch, I think, is stupid, but I know that it becomes bigger as the movies go on. But like Harry Potter is supposed to go after the snitch, but in the first movie, he's just kind of like sitting around for 5 minutes before he even like attempts to go after the golden snitch, which I understand he's young and it's his first Quidditch game and he may be nervous or whatever, but it's just maybe do something, help the team, But ultimately, I enjoyed it for the magical moments, but for the rest of the movie, it just felt kind of dull for me. What about you?
I like the movie a little bit more than you do.
Okay.
However, I do agree that with the first couple entries in the franchise, it's more geared towards children. And a scene in particular that I'd think of to point that out is when him and Malfoy are like fucking with each other on the brooms, and then he actually catches something and brings it back and is holding it, and all the kids are cheering. I'm just like, okay, that's kind of childish, but it does excellent world building in this movie. You can tell that they're laying the groundwork for something great, and that's something that the books did, and that's something I think that the first movie does great as well. I love the performances of each kid. Daniel Radcliffe, Emma Watson, and Rupert Grint, I believe is his name. I think that, building the dynamic between, Ron, Harry, and Hermione and the antagonism of Draco Malfoy. And, you get Alan Rickman as Snape, great performance. You get a lot of interesting set pieces. I love the giant chess board. I thought that was really cool.
You liked that?
I did. It's silly and it's for kids, but I love it.
I liked the design of it, but they spent so much time on the game itself. I was like, man, they really should just cut this out or like just cut to the end, because that scene did not work for me at all. I found that actually as a big negative.
Yeah. I also saw it when I was...
Right, so you have a better connection to it than I do.
Exactly, but growing up and rewatching it, you do kind of see like, oh, okay, the franchise evolves from here, and they do the smart thing of like, right, we're gonna pick a demographic and then we're gonna make the movie for that demographic all the way through to the end, and which was a good idea. But overall, I think that the film I love Hagrid so much. The performance is great, and just everything about that character, and I like the overall backstory with Harry Potter and living under the steps of the aunt and uncle's house, the very, very hero's journey with him. And
what the hell, why does that happen from time to time?
I don't know, but it's wizards and witches this time.
No kidding.
No, but you also get the hero's journey with him both in this movie, and you can tell it's going to be planted for later on. And also, the actual like effects with the wands, I think, is pretty cool, and those increase over the franchise. But I like the film, but I do think that I do agree with you a little bit in that it's mostly aimed towards kids, and that you'll see as you watch them that the franchise does get better. But let's go ahead and move on to the second film, which I actually think is weaker than the first film, but a lot of the people I talk to like it more. What are your overall thoughts?
Wow, I actually think it's weaker than the first movie as well.
Okay.
Again, I think it's still childish, but again, they came out, I think, a year apart. Yeah, so it's not like they're going to be aging much, because I know from the second to the third one, there's a bigger age jump. But it still feels childish. It's still laying out the groundwork, because that's something that I've seen with like franchises, or even like most famously, let's take DC. They know that they're going to make a franchise. They know they're going to make a world and somehow screw the pooch. But Harry Potter, they knew that they were going to be making multiple films, so they didn't spend too much on everything else. They wanted to focus on one thing, and they drop a little bit about Harry's backstory in every movie, it feels like, which is great, because like then it's like, okay, what the whole goes deeper than what I initially thought, because in one movie you're told one thing, and then in the second movie they'll build off that one thing, be like, no, it's not actually like that, it's a little bit different than what you think. And I think that Harry Potter does that fantastic.
It's kind of like Darth Vader killed your father. sort of. He's actually. It's kind of like that.
Yeah, it's exactly
Yeah.
like that, and I think that they do that fantastically, and I can't wait to watch the whole, because I haven't seen.
Oh, you get some tea. You get some tea, my
which
guy.
I'm excited about, because to all the people out there who are watching this, I haven't seen the whole franchise all the way through before.
He's only seen the first 3.
Yeah. Well, right now, yes, I've only seen the first 3. However, I've seen like maybe clips, but I couldn't tell you anything from the clips because it didn't mean anything to me at the time. But I'm very excited to see how the story unravels and see where the story goes, because just from what I've seen, just from the first 3 movies, like I said, Harry Potter's story, it's like, this is what happened. Well, not quite. This is actually what happened. So like, I have no idea what's going to happen with him, but the second movie builds off the first movie good in that aspect, but as a movie as a whole, I think is weaker than the first one.
I agree with that statement, but I also agree that it does build certain key story and world building elements better. Ginny Weasley gets introduced in the movie, and I think that she's an interesting character. Ron, you get more of Ron's family, you get more of introduced to that world. You get a lot more comedic bits in the film, which I think work good for the most part. You get more of a focus on, Tom Riddle and Voldemort and, who that is, even though, anagrams, what? But snakes are creepy, right? And as a kid, it was scary. When he stabs the fucking thing through the mouth, thought that was awesome. Moaning Myrtle is annoying.
Annoying as hell. Oh my God. No wonder why nobody fucking liked you.
Exactly.
Just complaining all the time.
Yeah. I thought that people getting petrified, especially as a kid, was really scary, and I didn't know what petrified meant. So when I was like really little and they said they've been petrified, I was like, that's a big fucking word. That means something bad's going on. But yeah, I think the movie does do some things well, but I think overall it didn't have that first time being introduced to this world glaze over it, and they didn't do enough with the expansion of the story to quite be as good as the first movie. But I don't think it's a bad movie either. I'm really excited to go ahead and just get in on this third movie, though.
Yeah, go ahead. Take it right off the top.
So this third movie is great. Like, I think it is great. It's excellent. It's directed by Alfonso Cuarón. So they took the first 2 movies made by Chris Columbus, Home Alone, nice little tone and touch to it. Then they got Alfonso Cuarón, who, would go on to make movies like Roma, Gravity, and made movies like Children of Men, one of the greatest living directors today. They were like, here's Harry Potter. And he was like, oh, here's a great fucking movie. And it was so well done. Gary Oldman as Sirius Black, great performance. And the actor's name is leaving me, but Professor Lupin, the Wolfie boy, thought he did excellent. That whole sequence where they're doing the fears and just the storytelling with that.
Which is fantastic.
So well done. The Dementors are fucking scary as hell.
And we get a new Dumbledore.
We get a new Dumbledore because unfortunately the original actor passed away. However, I do like Michael Gambon better in the role. I thought that immediately his chemistry with the other characters and his own personality kind of shined out a little bit more. And like you said, with building Harry's backstory, Harry kind of believed one thing growing up about Sirius Black and then finds out a completely different thing. I love the Moroder's map, and you see people and it's used as a tool for suspense as well. Such a great tool. I think that this was a huge step up for the franchise. I liked the other 2 movies, but this was the movie that kind of stamped it as like a boom. We're here and we're not fucking going anywhere.
Yeah.
And I think it's a fantastic movie. I also love the dynamic with the actors more. Oh, and fucking time travel. Excellent. I'm a slut for time travel. I love time travel. And this has my favorite type of time travel, Ryan.
What's that?
The kind that you don't fucking explain and you just do it. That's my favorite kind of time travel, and I loved it. Loved it. I thought that Hermione, Emma Watson, was a standout in this movie. I think her performance in this film kind of was even better than Daniel Radcliffe's and Rupert Grint's. Really, really great performance, great movie. I keep saying the same thing about how much I love this movie, but I do.
It's fantastic.
And you get a lot of sad things. You get Hagrid and the Hippogriff. You kind of get that unfortunate thing and his bond with that creature. Tons of great things. And through all 3 of these movies, the set design is stupid. The costume designs are great. By stupid, I mean stupid good. And just, this continues here, and even on a bigger scale, the CGI jumped an improvement with this film. It's still early, but it's better.
Yeah.
And you get just a lot more personal storytelling.
Which I think is a major plus because he
Yes.
wanted to take advantage of that because of all the world building that was done in the previous 2 installments.
Yes.
That you don't have to focus on magic as much. You can get down to the nitty-gritty of the hero's journey, Harry Potter's story and
Exactly.
his backstory and his involvement with Sirius Black and how all that unfolds. I echo everything you just said. I think this movie is fantastic. It's definitely a lot different than the other 2 movies, which I think is only a plus because...
And I think that's especially because of the director change up from that to this, yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. And, you see the actors themselves getting older. Like I said, this is a big age jump from the first to second, from second to third. Like, there's a bigger age gap there. I don't know if that made sense, but it made sense in my head. That's all that matters.
In the movie, they're a year older, but in real life, you can tell the actors are growing up.
Correct, yes. Which it makes sense to take a darker tone to this movie because when you look at the audience...
They're getting older.
Correct. So you don't want to make like a kid's movie for the same audience. You want to make a movie that, like you said, pick a demographic, them, and we're going to grow up with them, and it works fantastic. I do remember trying to watch this movie as a kid, but like the Dementors scared the shit out of me.
Yeah.
Like I was like, nah, I'm good.
Yeah.
But upon rewatch, I think it's fantastic. Definitely stands out further than the other 2 do.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And
even for the rest of the franchise, this is high up for me, this third movie.
oh yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Very fascinating. But do you want to give the grades now, or do you want to wait till the whole franchise is done?
No, we can give grades now.
All right,
That's
go
fine.
ahead. Just go from 1 to 3, giving your grade for each, and then after the whole franchise, I guess we'll go ahead and rank them.
We'll rank them when we're completely done.
Yep.
My grades are going to go as such. 1 and 2 both get B pluses. I like 1 more than 2, but they have the same grade. And Harry Potter 3, Prisoner of Azkaban, A fucking plus.
Really?
I love the movie that much.
Wow.
I love Harry Potter.
I'm excited to see how the rest of this franchise goes.
Yes, and you'll get there are more than 1 A plus in my.
Oh, I can
rankings.
only imagine. Yeah.
And before you do it really quick, we didn't even mention obviously the idea of Azkaban is fucking cool. Of like the prison where they keep all the like really bad like.
And the Dementors are
Yeah.
like the prison guards, if you will.
Awesome. Anyway, go ahead and give your grades for the franchise so far.
So far, 1 and 2 have the same rank for me, 3 stars out of 5. They're magical. They're cute, I guess, if you want to say that.
Yeah.
But the third installment, Prisoner of Azkaban, gets 4 stars.
Yes.
So definitely headed in the right direction. What's next? Goblet of Fire. That is the very next one.
Next, we're gonna do Goblet of Fire.
Fighter.
Goblet of Fire. I did it again. Goblet of Fire, Order of the Phoenix, Half-Blood Prince. We're doing those next.
Okay. Wow. Very, very exciting to see how this
too.
whole story
Me
unfolds
too.
because they're building Voldemort up to be this big bad guy, but
Yeah.
I don't know nothing about him.
He'll see soon. Make sure you keep in tune with us on that, and we'll see how his opinion of the franchise grows as it keeps going, and you'll get to hear how I rank him as well. So that'll be
Oh,
interesting.
I did want to say one last thing.
Yes.
It seems like they're focusing a lot on Gryffindor and Slytherin. I hope they get into more of the other houses, but because like right now they're painting Slytherin as like the bad guys, but Harry's like the direct descendant of the original Slytherin, so it's like what the fuck's happening? Yeah, we'll see. Like you said, we'll see. Yeah.
High-pitched voices.
Because the other houses look pretty lame compared to Gryffindor and Slytherin.
My favorite
which,
thing
seeing
is-
in pop culture, like everyone's like, "Oh, I'm Gryffindor, I'm Slytherin," which like, yeah, you want to be part of the popular one, but like, what about Ravenclaw and Hufflepuff? Like, I hope they just don't get shafted.
Do you know how many dates I've been on where the girl's like, "So what Harry Potter house are you in?" And I'm just like, "Fucking God." Don't get me wrong, I love the movies, but that's just don't do that on dates, male or female. It's annoying. I promise you, it's annoying. God, giving out life advice. Oh, last thing about Harry Potter.
Yeah.
I love Dumbledore at the end of the movies where he's like, "What, Harry blew his nose?" 100 points for Gryffindor.
Yeah,
It's just
right?
So great. I love it. Oh, yeah. And for the last bit on our show, this is a new bit that I am going to introduce. I've noticed I was talking fast again. Slow it down.
There you go.
Slow it down. We decided to look back into the history of the Academy Awards, look at all the nominations and winners, and decide, we're going to decide and do them ourselves. So this time, we took a look at the 2008 Academy Awards, and we're going to rearrange some things and kind of get a final opinion as to how we would have handled the Academy Awards in 2008 if we were in charge. Well, technically 2009 awards for the 2008
Correct.
movies. So, a couple changes that I made.
Well, before we get into the changes, let's lay out some of the groundworks for what we can and cannot do.
Yes.
So we agreed that we could change a nomination or win if we had seen those movies.
Yes, but movies we hadn't seen had to stay.
Correct, because if you don't see it, you don't have an opinion on
Exactly.
it. But I will say, looking back at these Oscars, I have not seen many of these movies that were nominated. So I will say I didn't really change much. I did add a few to the Best Picture, but we'll get there when we get there. But so a lot of the things I will be saying is going to be echoed from Dalton and his standpoint, and I will chime in on his opinion. But it's a shame I haven't seen like all the Best Picture nominations. Haven't seen them. All the Best Director. Haven't seen those movies. So couldn't change anything. So what the hell do I know, you know?
Good shit, good shit.
But let's get into your changes.
All right. Usually I wait for the end for Best Picture, but we're going to start with that bitch today.
What?
Oh, yeah. Best Picture. Oh, and we also modernized how it works.
Yes.
So we combined the sound categories, and we gave 10 nominees to Best Picture instead of 5. An interesting fact, Dark Knight not getting nominated in 2008 is one of the reasons why they extended it past 5. So naturally, for my list of Best Picture nominees, The Dark Knight. Frost Nixon, Milk, The Reader, Slumdog Millionaire, Gran Torino, Changeling, Wall-E, The Curious Case of Benjamin Button, and The Wrestler. I had not seen The Reader, so I had to leave that there, and you'll see that again throughout the entire list. But yeah.
But you kept a lot of the nominations and left them in Best Picture.
I kept all 5. I just added 5 more. And my winner for Best Picture is The Dark Knight. Because it was the best fucking movie of that year. And it bothers me to this day.
So much so, it was the best movie, so much so that they literally changed the Oscars.
Exactly. But yeah, your thoughts on that, and what would you choose for a Best Picture win out of those? I know you haven't seen a whole ton of them.
From those, definitely Dark Knight, but this is the one category I could add to because we extended it to 10 nomination, up to 10. I only did up to 8 because just even in 2008 movies, I haven't seen that many, and the ones I have seen, it's like Meet the Spartans and like all these stupid movies that
Best
definitely
Picture.
they're not going to touch the Oscars. But I kept the original 5 in Slumdog Millionaire, Curious Case of Benjamin Button, Frost Nixon, Milk, The Reader. But I did, like you, add The Dark Knight. I still have Dark Knight winning regardless. But yeah. Dark Knight's just fantastic. I don't know how you don't let that movie win.
Yeah, and the original nominees were Slumdog Millionaire, Curious Case of Benjamin Button, Frost Nixon, Milk, and The Reader, and Slumdog Millionaire won. I think that's a good movie. Did not deserve to win, especially out of those nominees.
Yeah.
Irregardless, moving on. Best Director. The original nominees were Danny Boyle for Slumdog Millionaire, David Fincher for The Curious Case of Benjamin Button, Ron Howard for Frost Nixon, Gus Van Sant for Milk, and Stephen Daldry for The Reader. I changed 2 nominations.
Okay.
Here are the ones I kept. Ron Howard for Frost Nixon.
Good, because he's Ron Howard.
Yes, we love him. Stephen Daldry for The Reader, because I have not seen The Reader.
Okay.
David Fincher for Benjamin Button. And I took out Gus Van Sant for Milk. I like Gus Van Sant as a filmmaker. I like Milk the movie. But I think this nomination belonged to Clint Eastwood for Gran Torino.
Okay.
I love that film. I think his performance is good, but I think his directing job is even better. And I think that he deserved a spot on this list. And then I also changed Danny Boyle, the person who originally won. And I love Danny Boyle. No, nothing against Danny Boyle. And I replaced him with Christopher Nolan for The Dark Knight. And surprise, surprise, I gave the award to Christopher Nolan for The Dark Knight. That's how I kind of saw it playing out. Do you have anything that you wanted to add to that?
I mean, if we're going based off your nominations, I definitely think Christopher Nolan is the clear winner, especially since his movie, again, changed the Oscars forever.
Yep.
But I think that movie transcends a comic book movie, so much so that it should be a Best Picture winner. But I'm happy Danny Boyle actually won because I love Danny Boyle. But, you know, I support Christopher Nolan winning. I think it's well-deserved. I think he doesn't get the award love that he gets, and that goes into my hot take.
Oh, yes, you're right. We're going to go ahead and move on to Best Actor. Best Actor, the original nominees were Sean Penn for Milk, Richard Jenkins in The Visitor, Frank Langella in Frost Nixon, Brad Pitt in The Curious Case of Benjamin Button, and Mickey Rourke for The Wrestler. I did the...
Who won that one?
Sean Penn won
Sean
for
Penn,
Milk.
okay.
And I did the exact same, except I replaced one.
Okay.
I replaced Frank Langella for Frost Nixon, and I replaced him with Tom Cruise for the movie Valkyrie.
Okay.
I love that movie, and a lot of people don't like that movie, but I think it's fantastic, and I think that Tom Cruise gave an excellent performance in it, although he's mocked for his accent. I thought the accent was fine, and when I first saw it, the movie blew my mind. I really like that movie. I'll stand by my opinion.
Yeah.
I think it's great. And this was tough for me because Sean Penn is excellent in Milk, but I also really, really liked Mickey Rourke in The Wrestler. I think The Wrestler is a fantastic movie.
Mm-hmm.
But I did keep the Academy's recommendation, I'll call it, and I made Sean Penn the winner for Milk because his performance is excellent in that film. Okay. But it was a close between him and Mickey Rourke. I did have to battle in my brain for that.
Yeah.
Yep. Anything you want to add to that?
No, I mean, pretty much what you said. I love Valkyrie as a movie. I think Tom Cruise does a fantastic job in it, so I wouldn't be surprised if he was nominated for that role.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yes. And now we'll go on to Best Actress. Here are the original nominees: Kate Winslet for The Reader, Anne Hathaway for Rachel Getting Married, Angelina Jolie for Changeling, Melissa Leo for Frozen River, and Meryl Streep for Doubt.
Mm-hmm. And who won?
Kate Winslet originally won for The Reader. Here are the nominees that I had. Surprised they're the same exact ones, because the only movie I've seen on this list is Changeling, and surprise, surprise, I made Angelina Jolie for Changeling my winner because it's the only one I've seen.
Yeah.
So this one's a little bit facetious, but I do love that film. I put it in my Best Picture nominees. I love that film so much. Another Clint Eastwood. He had 2 bangers in 2008. But yeah, anything you want to add to that?
Nope, haven't seen a movie. Don't really have a formal opinion on it, you know?
Interessante.
Yeah.
Best Supporting Actor. This one was super easy. Although I did change one nominee.
Okay.
Here are the original nominees: Heath Ledger for The Dark Knight, Josh Brolin for Milk, Robert Downey Jr. for Tropic Thunder, Philip Seymour Hoffman for Doubt, and Michael Shannon for Revolutionary Road. Heath Ledger infamously won for The Dark Knight. My nominees: Heath Ledger for The Dark Knight, Josh Brolin for Milk, Robert Downey Jr. for Tropic Thunder, Philip Seymour Hoffman for Doubt. I've seen Revolutionary Road, so I'm allowed to change that one. And while Michael Shannon is fantastic, don't think he's as good as Kenneth Branagh for Valkyrie. Another one for Valkyrie. Really, really like that film. I thought Kenneth Branagh was even better than Tom Cruise.
Oh, wow.
However, he wasn't as good as Heath Ledger, because I gave Heath Ledger the win for this, just like the Academy did. Heath Ledger wins for The Dark Knight. Anything to add for that?
Yeah, I mean, if the actual awards played out this way, if Robert Downey Jr. got the win, I wouldn't be surprised, because looking back at it in hindsight, I would say Robert Downey Jr.'s performance is just as iconic in that movie as Heath Ledger's is as
He's
the Joker.
He's fantastic in Tropic
He
Thunder.
truly is. And it's something we've never seen before in the modern age.
Yeah, and it was something that, it's controversial, but the movie knew it was making fun of actors, it was making fun of method actors.
Yeah.
And they obviously in the movie address what he's doing is not okay, and that he's going, and he learns that by the end of the film, but just the way that he acts just as a method actor, like I said, he's a dude playing a dude disguised as another dude.
Yeah.
And then Robert Downey Jr. just bleeds through that performance, and it is an excellent performance in that film.
Yeah.
Hilarious film as well.
It truly is. And like I said, if Robert Downey Jr. ended up winning for that over Heath Ledger, I wouldn't be surprised, because I think both those roles are as iconic as each other in their respective films.
Oh, yes. Moving on to Best Supporting Actress.
Mm-hmm.
The original nominees were Penelope Cruz for Vicky Cristina Barcelona, Amy Adams for Doubt, Viola Davis for Doubt, Tyra P. Henson for The Curious Case of Benjamin Button, and Marissa Tomei for The Wrestler. My nominees stayed the same, and I've only seen Benjamin Button and The Wrestler. So I gave it to Marissa Tomei for The Wrestler, because I think she is just slightly better than Taraji P. Henson for Curious Case of Benjamin Button.
And who actually won?
Who actually won was Penelope Cruz for Vicky Cristina Barcelona.
Okay.
Yeah. Again, that's a little facetious because I haven't seen the other movies listed, but still, I've heard Doubt is great, but I've never watched it.
Yeah. Well, I have no opinion again, as I haven't seen these movies, and it's really a shame that I haven't seen them, because these are awarded the best movies of the year.
Yes. Ooh, I throw a wild one in here, not to win, but for a nomination.
Okay.
Best Original Screenplay. The original nominees were Milk by Dustin Lance Black, Frozen River by Courtney Hunt, Happy Go Lucky by Mike Lee, In Bruges by Martin McDonough, who I love, although I've never seen In Bruges, I feel bad, and Wall-E by Andrew Stanton, Jim Reardon, and Pete Docter. I have the exact, and Milk won at the Oscars. I have the exact same nominations because I haven't seen Frozen River, Happy Go Lucky, or In Bruges. But I replaced the script for Wall-E, which is a fantastic script. I kind of just did this as a stunt move because I think it's a great screenplay and wish it got more recognition. I added Forgetting Sarah Marshall by Jason Segel.
Is that the rom-com with Matthew McConaughey?
No, that is the movie with Jason Segel where he gets dumped, and it's about him trying to get over this girl while he goes to this resort, and turns out the ex is at the resort.
Okay.
It is a hilarious movie. I just recently watched it for the first time. Hannah told me about it. I'd never seen it before. Great movie. And the script is so good. Not just as a comedy, but as just a, building a character. And it identified personally with me, just being someone who has gone through a bad breakup before. Really great movie. Although I did edge out and give the award to Milk's screenplay, because it is a fantastic screenplay. Best adapted.
Very interesting wild card.
Yes, thank you. Best adapted screenplay. The original nominees: Slumdog Millionaire for Simon Beaufoy, The Curious Case of Benjamin Button by Eric Roth and Robert Secord, Doubt by John Patrick Stanley, Frost Nixon by Peter Morgan, The Reader by David Hayer. The exact same nominees I have, but I did change the winner. The original winner was Slumdog Millionaire. I chose Frost Nixon. I really like that film. Ron Howard somehow builds suspense with two people during an interview, and the scripting of that interview and just the overall way that story is told via the script is fascinating, and how it is adapted from its book deserves some recognition. So I gave the award to Frost Nixon there.
Okay. Interesting take.
We dive deep here.
Yeah.
All
for Ron Howard, though.
All for Ron Howard. Best animated feature film. The nominees were Wall-E, Bolt, and Kung Fu Panda. Wall-E won. I'm the exact same. Wall-E's fantastic.
Absolutely.
Although good for Kung Fu Panda getting that nomination. Good for them.
Yeah, right. Jeez.
We did not do Best Foreign Language Film, Documentary Feature, Documentary Short, Live Action Short, Animated Short, just because that would just be
Time crunched, yeah.
Time crunch and useless because we don't really know all of that information, and I didn't want to pretend like I knew the information. That would just be silly. So, we're going to go on to Best Original Score. Here are the nominees. The actual nominees were Slumdog Millionaire by A.R. Rahman, Curious Case of Benjamin Button by Alexandra Desplat, Defiance, James Newton Howard,
Hey, Defiance.
Milk, Danny Elfman, and Wall-E from Thomas Newman. I changed one of these little nominations.
Okay.
My nominees are those ones. The actual winner was Slumdog Millionaire. This fucking ice cream truck. Always.
At what? 7 o'clock at night?
Always.
What are you doing?
Always. I don't know. But the actual winner was Slumdog Millionaire. But that is the one that I took away. And I added the Dark Knight score from Hans Zimmer, because I think that score is brilliant.
Fantastic is what you meant to say.
However, I didn't give it the win.
Wow.
I gave the win to The Curious Case of Benjamin Button. Alexander Desplat's score is very good in that film, and I think it does have the slight edge over the Dark Knight score. And I love the Dark Knight score, and I do think it deserves to be nominated, but I will give it to Benjamin Button for the win.
Interesting that you changed the winner and gave the winner to someone else.
Yes, thank you. Interesting, you did the thing of the thing.
Yeah.
Best Original Song we skipped. We combined Best Sound. Here are my nominees for Best Sound. The Dark Knight, Iron Man, Wanted, Wall-E, and Taken. I added Taken. I removed Benjamin Button. And I gave the winner to Iron Man, although originally Dark Knight won sound editing and sound mixing with Slumdog Millionaire, which I also removed. But yeah, I'm glad that Wanted got Oscar nominations.
Got some love somewhere.
Love that movie. Next, we're going to go on.
That's the movie where they bend bullets, right?
Yes. It's great.
God damn it.
Next movie, we're going to go on to Best Art Direction. The nominees are Curious Case of Benjamin Button, Changeling, The Dark Knight, The Duchess, and Revolutionary Road. I kept the nominations, and I decided that the winner...
Who was the original winner?
The original winner. I keep forgetting to do that. The original winner was The Curious Case of Benjamin Button.
Okay.
And I gave it to Changeling. because I think that is a beautiful looking movie. Like I said earlier, I love that film. Next, we're going to move on to Best Cinematography. I do have the same nominations, I'll let you guys know up top, but here they are. Slumdog Millionaire by Anthony Dodd Mantle, Changeling by Tom Stern, The Curious Case of Benjamin Button, Claudio Miranda, The Dark Knight, Wally Pfister, and The Reader by Chris Menges and Roger Deakins. Never seen The Reader. So obviously, all the nominations stay the same. The original winner was Slumdog Millionaire. I gave it to The Curious Case of Benjamin Button. I think that's a beautiful looking movie.
Okay.
And Dark Knight, close second. I feel like I'm shitting on Slumdog Millionaire. It's a good movie. I liked it, but it didn't deserve to win
all these
awards.
wins. Yeah.
Right. Best Makeup. I kept the exact same nominations and the win because it's Curious Case of Benjamin Button, Dark Knight, and Hellboy 2, and Benjamin Button obviously wins Best Makeup.
Yep.
We also did, let's see, Best Costume Design. The original nominees were The Duchess, Australia, The Curious Case of Benjamin Button, Milk, and Revolutionary Road. I have the exact same, and the original winner was The Duchess. I have the exact same nominees, except I changed out Milk for Valkyrie. But winning, I had Benjamin Button taking the win over The Duchess, just because I haven't seen The Duchess.
Okay.
And I think Benjamin Button does the best costumes. And last, but certainly not least, which I am glad I get to bring this up on the show in case people didn't know. Best Visual Effects. Actually, there's two more. Best Visual Effects.
Well, do you want to save that one for last then?
Yes, I will. We're going to go to Best Film Editing.
Okay.
Which I actually agree with. I have all the same nominees. The nominees were Slumdog Millionaire, The Curious Case of Benjamin Button, The Dark Knight, Frost Nixon, and Milk. Slumdog Millionaire won, and I emphatically agree that deserved to win Best Film Editing. It edited very well. Best Visual Effects. The one that makes me mad.
Okay. Why does it make you mad?
Here are the original nominees. There were only 3 at the time. I added 2 more. The Curious Case of Benjamin Button.
Yep.
The Dark Knight. And Iron Man. Benjamin Button beat Dark Knight and Iron Man. It beat Iron Man. One of the most revolutionary visual effects movies ever. Now, Benjamin Button it's a David Fincher movie. The way he uses visual effects is outstanding. You can barely tell they're visual effects. But when compared to the revolutionary shit that ILM did with Iron Man, I think this was a whack choice. Not that the effects were bad, and like I said, David Fincher, Zodiac has a ton of CGI that's unnoticed. There are 1,000 VFX shots in The Social Network, and you wouldn't have even know it. It's such a well-done movie, the way Fincher does his VFX. But I don't think it was deserved. My nominees are Benjamin Button. I kept it as a nomination. The Dark Knight, Iron Man, Wanted.
Oh my God, there's that stupid movie.
And The Incredible Hulk.
What?
Yes.
What is your reasoning behind that?
Because the visual effects are awesome. Duh.
Going from human to Hulk? Yeah.
Yeah. And the fight at the end? Awesome. Great visual effects.
I feel like that's just like... You're going to hate this comparison, but I feel like it's just like Endgame or Infinity War. Big CG monsters fight each other.
But that's why they need a nomination for visual effects.
Yeah, but I'd argue that Incredible Hulk isn't deserving of this award, or this nomination rather. I love the movie, don't get me wrong, but speaking strictly on the nomination, I would have to disagree with you on that, but I see where you're coming from.
That fucking ice cream truck is back. Regardless, I gave the one to Iron Man because I needed to make history right.
Yeah.
And give that to Iron Man.
But why not Incredible Hulk?
Because I don't think it deserved to win. I just think it deserves a nomination.
Okay.
Jesus. But yes, those are our version, the Movie Nights version of the 2009 Academy Awards, 2008 films. That's a fun little thing that we're probably going to add to the show from now on. But before we go, Ryan, do you have anything that you want to add?
Yeah, just, all the things that we're doing right now. We would love any recommendations. Right now we're in the middle of a franchise, so it may be a little bit harder to get into other nominations, or other franchises, sorry. But we did get one that is the X-Men, so we may get into that next, maybe the future, maybe we'll see how it goes. But yeah, so any recommendations, whether it's a classic movie, if you have recommendations, I would say that that's probably going to be the best time to recommend it, because we do one movie per per week. So more likely your chances of getting
that
your
on the show are higher. Yeah.
Correct. But yeah, so any recommendations, we'll take it, whether it's for any one of ours, including hot takes. If you want to see our opinion on anything, go ahead and leave it.
We're all about viewer interaction.
We really are, trying to gear towards that.
Oh yeah.
Because I think it's definitely fun getting your guys' thoughts and opinions and, building off that. But that's pretty much all I have to say.
Awesome. Make sure you follow us on social media at Movie Nights on Facebook, at Nights_movie on Instagram and Twitter. Make sure you subscribe to us on YouTube, and if you're listening on SoundCloud, iTunes, Spotify, whatever, please check us out on YouTube as well and give us a little subscribe. Thank you very much. I think that's all we have for today's show.
Yeah, and, pretty smooth sailing.
Yeah, we'll see you guys next time.
Bye-bye.